This is Larry Hayward, pastor of Westminster Presbyterian Church in Alexandria, Virginia. If you look at the four Gospels, Matthew ends with the Great Commission. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. And remember, I am with you to the close of the age. Mark ends, as I said Sunday, in earlier versions with women fleeing from the tomb, for they were afraid. Then in later versions, he ends with Jesus being ascended into heaven and the disciples going out, as in Matthew. Luke ends also with the ascension and disciples in Jerusalem praising God in the temple. And John ends with the testimony of the beloved disciple and a neat authorial statement. There also were many other things that Jesus did. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. John was right. A lot of books have been written about the things Jesus did. What strikes me about these endings, in addition to how diverse they are, is what a slow, even quaint start Christian proclamation and development had. Disciples going out, women fleeing in fear, disciples praising God in the temple, a sense that someday books which are never written overnight will in fact be written. Yet within 50 years, Christianity would spread across the Greco-Roman world, and 200 years later would become the cornerstone of medieval civilization in Western Europe. That's a lot to grow from a handful of women at the tomb and disciples on the mountain. In our time, we've seen some of the largest corporations in the world begin and grow to their current enormous size, seemingly overnight. FedEx was founded in 1971, Apple in 1976, Google in 1998, Amazon in 1999, and Facebook in 2004. There's hardly a household in the neighborhood in which I live which is not touched by each of these. I'll say each of these nearly every day. Yet each started slow with a handful of people. I'm not one to normally make an argument for the truth or validity of Christianity based on its size or its durability, but I think there is something to be said for both. After all, Christianity has been around 2,100 years, and we didn't spring forth from the head of Zeus. We grew out of Judaism, which had another 2,000 years behind it in its photograph album. As strong as they are, I'm not sure Apple or Facebook will last 4,000 years. One of the reasons we have lasted is that we change. We exist in so many forms and so many cultures and languages. We never seem to die or be snuffed out by opponents as cruel as some of our opponents are. The word of the Lord goes out, and it does not return empty. This year, churches were not full, though they were fuller than last year. Grand choirs were not processing on Easter. The Hallelujah chorus was sung and blended electronically, but throngs were not joined together singing it, and no one stood up. I was again the videographer for Maggie's Easter sunrise service at 6:30 a.m. in our backyard. Last year, it made the front page of the Hill newspaper. This year, we didn't get the camera on the laptop activated. So unbeknownst to us at the time, she and I had our own private sunrise service while people in her church tuned into their computers, were waiting for the resurrection. But even in sanctuaries where people are starting to worship together, We're ministers who, after more than a year, have learned some technological skill. The word of the Lord went out yesterday, and it didn't come back empty. Lives were touched, many more than we'll ever see. Decisions were made. Souls and minds and perhaps even bodies were healed. The resurrection was proclaimed, and hope once again stirred from our tendency to rock it to sleep like a baby whenever trouble is on the horizon. Christ the Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.